Hello, it's time for our weekly market alert video, and this is the video for the week ended May 15th, 2020, and another week full of action and excitement on the markets, some of it good, some of it bad, but overall a down week. And so wanted to give you some perspective and our thoughts and what we think is going to happen going forward. So the first thing that we want to talk about is the old expression that says that if you don't learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it. And discovered today that that is actually a quote from George Santayana. Never heard of the guy, but man, what a great quote. And so if you look at bear markets, that recessionary bear markets that we've had over the last 100 years, and we've had 33 of them. A bear market is a drop of 20% or more in the S&P or the Dow or whatever index you're looking at. If it drops by more than 20%, it's a bear market. So we're talking about the S&P here. But if you look at the way that those develop, it starts off with a realization that something bad is about to happen. And so, you know, it's the realization in Y2K that the subprime mortgages that the dot-coms are actually not worth what they're worth, or in 2008 that the subprime mortgages are actually going to collapse. So there's this realization of something really bad is about to happen. Here recently, the realization that we're shutting down the economy, that could bring on another depression. So there's this big realization. When that happens, of course, investors immediately say, oh my gosh, I got to get out and protect myself. So there's a big sell-off, and we see that initial, big drop in the market. Then what happens is that the bad news kind of has played itself out, or that initial phase, and we see people get used to the idea of the bad news and start to say, well, how are we going to solve this bad news? And then a lot of times, as we saw in 2008 and in the Great Depression and Y2K, the government comes in with a big stimulus package, lowers interest rates, puts $700 billion into the economy as they did in 2008, or $2 trillion as they did this time. And that gives everybody hope that everything is going to work out. According to an article in Market Watch, 1/3 of the time of those 33 bear markets, 1/3 of them, that reaction, that new rise in the market that happened because of that was correct, meaning that it went on and it kept on going. So this could be that. We had a run in the market that was pretty significant, and maybe the market is right, the people that invested, they're right, and it's going to keep going. However, if you look at the big bad bears, as we call them, okay, the ones that happened where they were really significant, more than 40%. In most of those, what happened was that there's a second shoe to drop on the information, which means that there is a new set of information that reconfirms the original thought, which was, oh my gosh, this is really bad. And then the efforts that we're putting in right now to make it better are not going to be enough, and you get that second down. That second shoe to drop in the big bad bears in the Depression, Y2K, 2008, 1974, when you look at those bear markets, it happened at about the halfway point on the way down. So if that's the case this time, and this is not pleasant thought, but if that's the case this time, we could see the Dow bottom out at 14,000. So that's our concern right now, is that this could get a lot worse before it gets better. So what could be that second shoe to drop? Well, right now, what we think the second shoe to drop is the realization. The first thing was the concern about liquidity, okay, which means there's no money in the system. Nobody can borrow money. Nobody's going to be able to pay their loans and all that kind of, or get loans. And so the Federal Reserve recognized that immediately, and they came to the rescue and said, there's $2 trillion, plenty of liquidity. So that made people feel better. The concern, I think, that's starting to permeate into investors' minds now is to go from liquidity to solvency. So what that means is a business can borrow money. We made money available to you to borrow. Hertz, borrow $100 billion or $100 million. We've got the money for you. But if they have no business, if no customers are coming in the door, and they have no revenue, then it becomes a solvency issue, because then they just go out of business, they go bankrupt. And that loan that they got is not repaid. So we're starting to go into what we see as a solvency question. And what that means is, our business is going to be, yeah, they have access to money, but who's going to lend it to them, number one? And number two, if you do, are you ever going to get it back? And if you don't, that's going to create a problem. So we think the solvency issue is now going to be more and more what people are going to be talking about. And we think there's going to be incredibly bad quarterly earnings reports coming out here soon, in a couple of months. Nobody's giving guidance. Companies are not telling you what's going to happen. We think those numbers, when they come out, are going to be so bad that that's going to freak the markets out, and we think we're going to see that second shoe drop and the next thing happen. So that's where we sit. Not a pretty picture, but again, we're of no value to you if we paint a rosy picture for you. We plan for the worst, hope for the best. And so if we're okay under the worst case scenario, or the bad scenario, then we should be okay under that better scenario. So right now, the fact that we are not in bonds and not in stocks is where we are very comfortable being. We have no desire to buy anything at this point. We want to wait this thing out as long as we can. As we sit, we're still lower. As I record this, we're still lower than where we were when we got out in early March. So from that perspective, we feel good about that too. But really the important thing is, we want to sit out all this risk and wait until we have more clarity, wait until we know what's going to happen. And at this point, it's all happened so fast, we don't feel that we have any of that. So we're still sticking to our game plan of staying out until our buy signal comes. And when our buy signal comes, we're still planning on only going in with 10% of the equity allocation that you might have. So we're going to be very, very careful, tiptoe, conservative. It's all about protecting from big losses. You know, as one person I spoke to said very well, Ken, I am less worried about missing out on gains as I am wanting to miss out on losses. So I thought, wow, that is well put. Now, because we see this big storm coming, in many ways, we feel like we are Noah, okay, with Noah's Ark. And you're on the ark if you're a client, or if you've followed what we've said. You're out of harm's way, or you should be to a great degree. But many people are not. If they're not on the ark with us, encourage them to come visit with us. Encourage them to talk to our people and see if we can show them what we see, how we're addressing it, and maybe they'll find a fit that might work for them. So please, if you have family, business associates, friends, this rise we've had in the market was a godsend. Have them take advantage of that and de-risk their portfolio now. And if they don't know how to do that, have them talk to us, and we'll try to help them to do that. Okay, so thank you for being our client. We appreciate you so much. We hope you have peace of mind. You're not worried about this stuff. One of my longer videos, but we're in strange times. We'll talk soon.